Well, I think it's safe to say we've all messed up somewhere along the way, but is there a way to own up to our wrongs and get a fresh start? Maybe we need to start over again for the third or fourth or even 10th time. Our guest today is Dr. Chris Rappazini, a professor of leadership at Anderson University, a leadership life coach, and the author of Moving Forward After Messing Up, a New Future with the God of Second Chances. Welcome to Bridge City News, Dr. Rappazini. Great to have you on today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeanette. I'm thrilled to be with you.
Oh, so fun. Okay, so your book was written out of some of your own experiences. So can you maybe share how your father's death from cancer impacted you and your brother?
Sure, yeah. So, my father, about 20 years ago, was diagnosed with a pretty aggressive cancer. So, my brother and I, we were both teenagers at the time, and the cancer took his life in about 5 or 6 months. And we'll just say that our lives, my brother and I, our lives went in completely opposite directions. So, I ended up going to a Bible college in Chicago. Later on, went into ministry, got married, had a family, became a pastor and a professor. Whatever the exact opposite of that is, that's my brother. Okay. So he went to, we'll just say, a state school here in the US. And I like to say he majored in college life. And eventually he dropped out of college, moved to the state of Colorado about 15 years ago when Colorado changed some of their marijuana laws, and found a group that he fit in well with there. And but eventually became homeless and burned a lot of bridges with my family, particularly my mother. And so we just went in totally opposite directions. And I realize everybody grieves and mourns in different ways. And praise God that thankfully I was surrounded by Christians, a loving church. I dove into the scriptures and through prayer to help me move forward after that. He had other remedies that he thought was helping him, but in the long run, it ended up really hurting him. And then just a couple years ago, once our grandmother passed away, it was my responsibility to let him know this. I think it was because I was the spiritual one of the family, or because I was the only one who was still on talking terms. But that's loosely because hadn't talked in years, and I was trying to get a hold of him, and I couldn't, and he was homeless, so a lot that can be challenging. But I've come to find out that he was in jail, and was arrested for his alcohol and drugs and things like that. And that's really where the book picks up, because I realized, wow, he messed up, and how can I walk him through the process of moving forward? But also, I realized in that process, there are times in the past that I've messed up too, not as publicly, and even ways that I messed up with him in our relationship that I needed help. I needed help moving forward as well. I needed a second chance from God also.
I think everybody does. Absolutely. Are you and your brother on speaking terms still? How is he doing?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. So thankfully, he was in and out of rehab a couple times, but he's doing a lot better now. So in one of the rehabilitation centers, it was really, really helpful for him. He's not a Christian yet, I like to say, because we're still praying for him. But he became a house manager of one of his houses, and then he became a peer-to-peer coach. And now he's actually a leader or a coach to the coaches, and oversees several recovery houses. So he's been clean for about a year and a half now. And yeah, we speak about once a week, once every other week, something like that. Which, if you would have told me that 2 years ago, I would have, laughed in your face. That was not a possibility. But yeah, our relationship is a lot healthier than it was. And he allowed me to share some of his story in the book. And so I'm so grateful for him. And in fact, I dedicate the book to him.
Oh, that is beautiful. Okay, so I was going to ask you, why did you begin the book with this discussion on the importance of taking responsibility for our actions and the difference between a problem and a condition?
Yeah, well, I had a professor in seminary who would say, in life, you make decisions and your decisions make you. In other words, you have some consequences because of your decisions, and you have to own up to it. And I think that's one of the things that, we all need to do, is we all need to own up to our mistakes. We all have to identify the reality of that's really going on. But a lot of times we like to think that, drugs is the problem, or our spending habit is the problem, or, my ex-spouse or my boss, they're the problem. And yeah, okay, there's problems there, but there's something deeper than that, and it's the condition. And there's a difference, I like to say, between a problem and a condition. A problem is like a broken bone or a cut. It'll heal on its own, but a condition is a long going sickness that you really have to manage, and there's really no overcoming it. And we all have a condition, and the condition is sin. It's the sin that's within us. We're all fallen, we're all depraved. And so a lot of times what people try to do is they try to fix their problem when they haven't even identified that really it's not a problem they're trying to fix. They need to work on the condition. And the condition of sin can only be fixed in one way. And I believe that's through Jesus Christ. And so, like I said, my brother's doing well, but he's got, I believe, a little bit further to go to fully and truly be healed from his condition of sin.
And of course, we all face obstacles. So, what are some common obstacles that people face when trying to move forward after messing up, and how can they overcome them?
Well, and obstacles come in all shapes and sizes. A quick story is we just moved into a house a couple years ago, and I had a upstairs kind of bedroom that we converted into an office. And I'm looking up at the ceiling. I see a brown spot right next to the vent. I think, oh, that's interesting. And so I took a picture of it. Didn't do anything, just took a picture of it. And a couple weeks later, I look up and I think, did that grow a little bit bigger? And so I kind of compare it to, the picture that I took, and maybe, but I don't do anything about it. And then a few months later, there's a terrible rainstorm outside. My wife is gone. I'm trying to put the kids to bed. I hear something in my office and I peek through the door. And what do I see but practically a waterfall coming down onto my desk from the ceiling? So I run down to the kitchen, grab the largest pot I could find, climb up into the attic, see that it's leaking from the roof. I put the pot up there. Now, you would think that the next day I'd get up on the roof or I'd call somebody to fix it. I don't. I just left the pot up there for like 2 months. And it wasn't until I saw a roofer on my neighbor's house next door that I decided, I think I should probably do something about this. So I finally talked to him. He looked up on the roof. He's like, yeah, you got a hole up here. You got a leak. That's why the water's coming in. I say all that because there's a word for that, and it relates to obstacles. The word for that is denial. Denial. I was in denial. I was in denial that there was a problem, and I just thought it would go away, maybe on its own, or maybe it would heal itself. And I think a big obstacle for people moving forward is that they deny that there even is a problem. They think that, well, no, it's somebody else's fault, or I can handle this on my own. And when we say that to ourselves, when we deny that, then there's really no hope in us moving forward. So I think one of the major obstacles is to face what is really going on. Unfortunately for my brother, he had to have, an official judge to let him know, hey, this is what's really going on. But so many people today, we think we don't have that opportunity to have a judge, and we just keep living the way that we live, and we refuse to actually face reality.
True, so true. I would imagine humility could be another one of those obstacles, and that is something that your book touches on quite a bit, is humility. So can you maybe explain what real humility entails?
Right. And I think that's so interesting when it comes to humility, especially, for believers, for Christians, humility ought to be our calling card. I mean, it ought to be who we are known for. But the hard part is in the world of social media today, with getting, messages out there, there's a lot of false humility, at least what I'm seeing when I, either watch the news, of course, not you guys, but when I watch the news, because you guys have true humility, you're really wanting to make a difference, but you watch these other news programs or go on social media, and there's a lot of false humility out there. But true humility goes deeper. True humility is about empathizing with other people. It's about showing pure compassion. And even the word compassion means to suffer alongside people. It means to recognize our limitations, is true humility. It means to put other people first, to be selfless. Philippians 2 is a great example of this, that Paul writes about having the mind of Christ Jesus. In fact, I like to think there are two types of people in the world, not extroverts and introverts, but there are here I am people and there you are people. here I am people go into a room and say, hey, here I am. Let me tell you all about what I'm doing. Let me tell you about my business. Let me tell you about what I just purchased. There you are, people go into a room and they go up to people and they say, hey, there you are. Hey, how's your family going? Hey, how's your spouse? Hey, how are your kids doing in school? Hey, how's your business going? There you are, people. And what God is doing is he's turning here I am people into there you are people. And he does that through us being humble, right? And so having the mind of Christ, being humble, who Jesus took on the very nature of man and humbled himself and was obedient. And I think that's what he requires us to do if we're going to move forward after messing up.
Speaking of which, what advice would you offer someone who feels stuck in their past mistakes and who maybe are struggling to move forward past that?
Well, of course, facing that reality, but after you've done that, I think it's so crucial that we get connected with other people, we get connected, maybe even a support network. We are not meant to live alone. I mean, COVID taught us that, right? We're not meant to be isolated from other people. We're meant to do life together. And so often that's what happens when we mess up. Usually we are alone. Now, sometimes we mess up and we're with people. And so if you're messing up with people, you might need to find a new group of people so that you're not messing up with those people, but find some other people that can help and support you and encourage you. So I think that's huge. I think also just making personal goals. Maybe that's 6 months goals, 2 months goal, maybe even 1 week goal. And then what are you going to do this week to get you there? What are you going to do today to help get you to where you want to be? So yeah, getting in support networks, setting those goals, and then I would say also making amends, trying to get connected with those past relationships that have been broken, that have been, the bridges that have been burned, but to reconcile those relationships
Yeah,
with other people.
restoring those relationships for sure. And now, in your book, you also say that there are 4 steps individuals can take to build a new future for themselves. Really quickly, what are those? Because I know we're kind of limited on time here.
Sure. Yeah. So, well, the good thing is that was, I would say, I would think 3 of the 4, right? Get connected in a good network, and then uh, make those goals, those personal goals, get reconciled with those people that you've hurt. But then I think the fourth one, which is really, really important, and that is share your story. Share your story with other people because you don't know whose lives you can touch. You don't know whose lives you can change by just sharing your story because it's so amazing, Jeanette, how many people have either loved ones or who have messed up, and all they need is to hear a little bit of hope coming from somebody else that will give them the courage, the strength to move forward, that they need for that day to get one step closer to where they really truly want them to be, where God wants them to be, really.
Yeah, definitely. Now, of course, you're talking about making those, amendments with other people, but sometimes it's important to restore our relationship with God too, right? That's kind of a big key.
Yeah, I honestly, Jeanette, don't know how people can make it without him, without Jesus in their life. And I know, and my brother's he's doing okay in the world's eyes, and you could go to jail, you go to rehab, you could pay a lot of money, you could spend a lot of time, but if you really want to move forward, I'll tell you the best the best way, the quickest way, the cheapest way is get to know Jesus. Read the scriptures because he's in the business of cleaning up people's messes. That's what he does. In fact, the Bible is a book about people who've messed up. Just go through the litany of characters. They've all messed up. And yet God continually offers them chance over and over and over again. And yeah, can you move forward, without him? Maybe for a while, but ultimately the only way is to truly surrender your life to him because he's the one who can ultimately clean you up. He's the one who can ultimately restore any kind of broken heart and broken relationships.
Yeah, you often hear that he's the God of second chances. What if we mess up that second chance or third chance or whatever it is?
Yeah, the editors and we went back and forth on the title or the subtitle, God of second chances, because well, he's the God of third chances, fourth. He's the God of multiple chances, really. And it's true. We all will mess up. I talk about how when we were teaching our daughter to ride her bicycle without training wheels, I thought she'd get it in a week. It took her like 2 summers of, falling down, falling down. She would, she would keep complaining, "Daddy, I keep falling. Daddy, I keep falling." But then one summer, it was one day, just like any ordinary day, she went out there, she tried it on her own, and she got it. Now, did she magically, wake up that day and, things were changed? No, but she had built the muscle memory to keep moving forward, that now she can ride her bike, of course, without any problems going uphill, downhill, whatever. And it's the same with us is, yeah, we mess up. We do it, but thankfully God's there standing on the shores of our lives, just like he was with the apostle Peter in John chapter 21, and he restores our relationship with him. He reinstates us, and it's the muscle memory that we've gained from the falling down that we can get back up and continue our journey with him.
Great advice there. Thanks so much for being with us today, Chris. It looks like we're out of time here, but we appreciate having you on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Professor Chris Rappazini is the author of Moving Forward After Messing Up, A New Future with the God of Second Chances.